white-tailed deer have been hunted by just about every conceivable technique. Recently, a new and very effective method of taking deer has been discovered by Montana bow hunters Tom Storm and Harry Brunette. Harry designed and built the lifelike decoy, and Tom did the field experiments during actual hunting situations. Over time, Harry has made significant design modifications, following suggestions made by Tom from his field observations. Modifications of body posture, flexible real deer tails, taxidermy quality glass eyes, and natural deer antlers give Harry's current 3D models an absolutely authentic appearance. While Harry perfected the decoy's anatomy, Tom, by trial and error, developed a checklist of how to use the decoys to best entice those bucks of a lifetime into range. Since no one before Tom had done any intense decoying and there was no information on the subject, Tom was gaining more experience every time he put out his decoy. Each trip provided an ever-increasing bank of knowledge for him to build on. Tom's effective technique of decoying deer was entirely self-taught. Much of the information was recorded by Tom on videotape. Although deer have been successfully decoyed from Maine to Montana, this method, as with any other hunting method, does not guarantee success. However, decoying deer is a new and useful tool to possibly tip the odds of taking a big buck in your favor. It is a new, exciting way to pursue America's favorite big game animal. All sequences in this program were filmed documenting wild, free-roaming deer, with much of the hunting done on public land. Join us now as Tom Storm teaches Paul Brunner how to unravel the mysteries of decoying white-tailed deer. Some crucial points will be emphasized more than once.
Hey,
Paul,
Harry.
Paul, I'd like to meet Tom Storm.
Glad to know you, Paul.
He knows a lot of short jokes, so be prepared.
You told me he was tall. This is ridiculous.
I don't carry a tree stand. I just bring Storm hunting.
We're going to have to regroup. You know, he gets in my tree stands, he's going to have oxygen problems. His head's going to be so high.
Yeah, put it off good for me. High.
You won't be able to hang your bow when you're not at his tree stand. He's got every limb cleaned away. You don't even have a place to.
Boy, I tell you, these decoys are really, really something. I've been just waiting for this.
Hey, don't touch them. Paul, it's like everything else in the world. You got to protect yourself. Wear rubber gloves. But here we wear rubber gloves to protect the decoy to keep the human scent off them. So once we get the...
Okay, so make sure I don't ever touch one of these things.
No, unless you want to touch him, you're going to put him away for the season. But if you're going to hunt with him, put the rubber gloves on. Vinyl gloves, rubber gloves, whatever you...
You can't help but get some human scent on it somewhere, just carrying it around, but
yeah.
We use cover-up scent when we put it in the field, so that helps some.
It's,
Boy, those are neat decoys. I mean, that looks like a deer. Have you ever had anybody stalk one of these things?
oh yeah, we got 3 archers on video sneaking up.
You almost got shot with it.
A guy shoot over top me twice, threw 2 arrows.
Well, Tom, how did you get started doing this decoy stuff?
Well, I've been decoying for quite a few years, but I never had any success. I tried everything on the market. I tried the blow-ups and silhouettes, and I could never get any action at all. And about 3 years ago, I met Harry at a Montana bow hunters convention, and he had a decoy, and the decoy looked real, and it's the first one I've ever seen that looked real, and so we got to talking about it, and he'd handcrafted that
Don't
decoy.
fall over. I can't touch it either.
Go like this.
Okay.
Good job. There comes the elbow.
And the decoy looked so real, I thought that I'd take a chance on it and try it. And it's the first one he'd ever sold. It wasn't exactly like this. It was a prototype. We called it Mighty Might. It was smaller, and he'd handcrafted it, but it was a good decoy. And I took it out, and right away started getting action on it. Attacks. Oh yeah. Now there's one thing different. Everybody tried it with a doe. It seemed like Perry suggested trying a buck with real antlers on it. You know, and I think that really made the difference.
Well, we had a live mounted doe. We've still got her. Called her Gwendolyn.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had her. Len Rue gave me a photograph of a doe that was about to be received by a buck, or vice versa, I guess. And so we had her mounted that way with her tail just so and her head just so. Nothing. I mean, I'd have fawns come and, you know, lick at her.
That's the same thing I had. I never got any action at all.
And the minute you put a buck out, well, it's just like antelope decoying. You know, you put an antelope buck decoy out and they just hammer.
That's right. But the silhouette doesn't work on the deer. I never had it work, and I never had anything work. This full-bodied decoy works.
Well, I mean, that is a kind of a decoy I wouldn't want to put out in sight of the road during rifle season.
Absolutely not.
He'll be shot. He'll be shot if you
for
do.
sure.
I remember that first decoy that you guys had that up there at the chute. You called it Mighty Might?
Mighty Might.
This thing has sure changed an awful lot since then. What have you guys done differently now?
Well, Mighty Might was a total hand carbon, and he was made a lot for you. He's short to the ground. Tom carried him under his arm.
He's
But,
the taller one for me. See?
Yeah, I built a bigger one for Tom, but I went with one that's a natural poise, and it's just the true authenticity is what I believe in whitetail.
You can see it from any angle. The
Any
buck can
angle.
see it from any angle. It looks real.
There's the little baby right there that really attracts him. Now might have problems in some states with using real game hair or something for decoy, and we're still checking it out.
But the wind will move that. And it'll
Yeah,
make it
wind
look
moves
real.
that tail.
That works real well.
Yeah, I noticed you got really super realistic eyes, but one thing that I'm really curious about is you have what I would call a semi-alert pose, you know. His eyes are looking ahead, his head's up, and his ears are pointing towards where he's looking. What's the reason for that? Why?
He's looking right past you. You're up in the tree stand above. He's going to be looking right past you. You notice the position of his tail? He's out looking. He's got a doe on his sight. And he's looking right straight out at him. And when the other buck comes in, it's their natural. They say, "What's he doing in my area?" He knows every buck that's already there, and all of a sudden here stands the decoy.
So in other words, this is like the buck knows everything that's going on in his turf, and you've messed with his
He's
scrapes.
been with him all summer. The buck's been in the area all summer, and all of a sudden here's a stranger.
New
And
kid
this
on the
guy's
block,
looking,
I
a new
feel.
kid on the block, and he's looking around.
And so when that guy that you want sees him, he just
Katie
comes
barred the
in.
door.
He just wants to see what's going on.
Katie barred the door.
Yep.
I'm like that, very aggressive.
Oh, yeah. Let's see.
Oh, you notice Tom's got his hand on the antlers? That's the other thing, is the real antlers. And they're detachable. You can interchange antlers for different critters. But you want to take those antlers off at night, store them in a plastic bag with whichever kind of scent you use. Put the scent you're using, take the tail off, put them both in a plastic bag and put a cotton swab with your scent on it. The natural antler will absorb the scent, so will the tail. The tail will smell, next summer will smell just like it does.
Tail really holds the scent.
Really
That's
holds
the
the
key.
So in other words, if you have a small rack, then any buck that is slightly larger might attack him.
That's
so,
the way I found it. There's very few exceptions. They have to be at least that big or bigger, or they're just not going to come in and hit it. Now they'll circle it and they'll look at it, and lots of times they'll give you a shot because they're just, you know, real
yeah,
curious.
they're riveted right
Scared. They're riveted right in on it. Yeah.
there. I mean, have you really had that many attacks where you've had to climb down out of your tree
I've had
stand and pick the thing
a
up
lot
and
of
put it over?
attacks. A lot of attacks where I climbed down out of the tree stand. That's when I
Wow.
started thinking, well, there's got to be something different here, and so we started putting bigger antlers on, and that was the key. If you have a bigger antler than the deer that comes in, he's just going to circle it and look at it more or less.
Well, that's neat.
But-
I'm pretty jacked up about that.
It's going to be fun. It's fun.
Well, you know, where I'm perfectly willing to witness a lot of attacks and get down out of the tree stand and right the decoy, I'd want to use something with smaller antlers.
If that's what you want to do, Paul, this is what you'll go here. And there's again, you put this little one on, I guarantee you'll be out of the tree. Because every buck his size and bigger will come by and knock him down.
Yeah, I notice you've got blaze orange face
That's-
covers. You know,
I don't want to see one of my friends getting shot packing that decoy. It protects his face and it also,
even though we'll be bow hunting, there's going to be gun
another
hunters
bow hunter
out there.
that's anxious to shoot a big buck too. So
Boy, those eyes are really something. I mean, they look just like a real animal. Is that what the taxidermists use?
that's where I buy them, Paul. Taxidermy supply houses, and it's.
Now, have you ever tried it without the eyes?
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Magpies come along and peck them out. They won't peck these out. But the big thing is, stick your head up by that one and see your reflection like a mirror.
oh yeah.
All right.
We think that's really important.
When the whitetail walks around and he looks at him, he sees his reflection. They'll get their nose and their head, and they'll be bobbing back and forth. And they'll look from one side to the other, trying to make a quick motion,
You can just see
thinking
them
he's moving his eyes.
You actually watch it?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
we watch them.
We think they're looking at the reflection.
They're reflecting.
Can't
yeah.
be sure, but I don't know what else they're doing.
Well,
Another
either
thing is-
that or maybe they're trying to establish eye contact.
That could be too, yeah.
But at least they see there's motion. The other thing is keep them polished off. Wipe them off. If you're carrying them in the rig, they get road dust or whatever. Brush them off.
Brush them off with your rubber gloves.
Well, you guys have made a science out of this, but it sounds like it's really going to work. I mean, this isn't one of those
Right now,
fabulous new discoveries that they sell for $16.95 and doesn't work. This
This might
thing works.
revolutionize trophy buck hunting, or it's all over. You never know.
Well, you're producing these commercially, I guess, now, aren't you,
yeah,
Harry?
pretty much all on a custom-made basis because it's just something you can't mass produce. Each one is
Not to look like this.
totally handmade and hand textured. All the glands are on them. You can add your own dorsal glands off a buck that you want. You can hot glue them right in place where the dorsal gland is painted on now and textured on. So
That's a good idea.
they hold the scent. They hold the scent. Any of the natural hair holds the scent.
Well, Paul, it's starting to get late. I know Harry wants to go hunting, and I know I'm ready to go hunting. And after the phone call yesterday, I didn't get any sleep last night because you told me about all these big bucks you got scouted out. So maybe we ought to go see if we can get one, huh?
I'll show you my spots, and then, you say, hey, we can't, it won't work here.
Right.
Tell me why, so I can, when I get doing this on my own sometime, I won't waste a lot of time, and we'll just go find some good spots and go for it.
We'll do her. Let's get her.
Decoys are used most productively during the peak of rut, when deer are more aggressive and in areas with a high buck-to-doe ratio. Decoys are also useful in non-rut periods for a calming effect. For example, placing a buck or doe decoy in a feeding area, such as an alfalfa field, may encourage deer to leave cover earlier than normal, thus salvaging a few more precious minutes of daylight. The first evening, Tom places his decoy by the side of a well-used trail between a bedding area and a doe use area. It is November 10th. The previous night, a buck made a large scrape immediately adjacent to the trail. Within the hour, several bucks appeared, but did not follow the trail. A thin screen of pine trees prevented a shot. Tom was holding out for a 145-inch or better animal. Although the bigger deer of the bunch looked tempting, Tom passed on the buck due to the fading light and poor angle of the shot. Placing the decoy in the proper position and location requires a study of the terrain and habitat, consideration of wind, trail arrangements, scrape locations, rubs, brush and tree patterns, and deer movement patterns are all important. This young buck winded Tom and spooked, but he gave the hunter a few minutes of enjoyment. Remember, during the rut, we are actually looking for does. Where they are moving and feeding, the buck will follow. As fundamental as it may seem, the decoy must be placed where the dominant bucks can see it as they move through an area. Don't obscure the decoy with brush, trees, or any natural ground-level obstacles. It's surprising how many bucks walk within 20 to 50 yards of the decoy and do not see it. Back off a distance, squat down, placing your eye level at that of a buck's, and check to be sure the decoy is visible. Even with considerable planning, not every setup is going to be right the first time, as we saw with Tom's first hunt. The lesson here is to be flexible. If the setup is wrong, adapt. Tom explains what went wrong and how he changed his approach.
Okay, well, this is a fantastic area for big bucks. What are you going to do different? What'd you see?
What happened is, once I got in the tree, I could see that we were really boxed in. You know, you get up in this tree, and here's this one trail. It's a perfect trail. We got a good scrape right there. And they're boxed in everywhere else, though. And they can't see the decoy. The main thing is you gotta see that decoy. See, come over here and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, now see, last time the deer came out over there on the other side, about 40, 50 yards. And they got behind all these little Christmas trees, and so they couldn't see the decoy.
Yeah, because it's not moving. They've got to get a good visual shot on it.
You'll find that out in the decoy. They don't see that a lot of times because it's stationary. And it doesn't move, and it's blended in with the environment just like a regular deer, so they don't see it. So you have to try and get it where it's visible. And sometimes that's hard. You know, there's never the perfect setup. But we have to move it now because if they come down that same trail, they're going to do the same thing. They're not going to see it. See, remember we were in a hurry last night and we set up? And this was a really good trail. It's got that scrape. But I forgot to ask you if there was any more trails coming off the ridge.
I forgot to tell you.
You said they all bedded up on the ridge, you know?
Yeah. Well, there are also going to be some deer that'll come up that gulch. There's a line of scrapes in there every year for the last 20 years. So my guess is I'll go ahead and tell you what, after only 2 days of learning some of this, what I do, and then tell me what I'm doing wrong. I guess what I would do is get out in the open more where the trails sort of funnel in.
So we can kind of,
which is what I hunt, natural funnels.
Right, so we can see, so they can see it if they're going up over there, and then if they use this trail, they'll be able to see it. So if we go up right over in that plateau over there, they should be able to see it from both places.
And it doesn't hurt that it's that open because they're going to be riveted to the decoy?
Not with the decoy, it's okay, yeah. See, they shouldn't have the attention on you at all. They should be riveted right on that decoy.
Yeah, so I want one of these attacks to happen.
It'll happen. Yeah.
I remember to bring my rubber.
All right, good man. Let's go. Oh, did you carry it like that?
Yeah.
Put it down.
Oh yeah. Right, the lungs are right against me if some bozo's out there.
Well, I know we're in an archery zone, you know, but a gunner could sneak in here or something. You don't know what's gonna happen. Even who knows, a stupid archer.
Okay, how do you carry him then?
Well, here, I'll show you. And if you're in a gun zone, you definitely want to have the orange on it.
So you gotta take the orange
But
to go with it.
I would never carry it like that in any area. I always just take it like this and turn it upside down like this.
Let me point something out to you. I knew I had to carry him that way, but you heard the story about Tom Sawyer and the whitewash fence. Well, I don't have to carry the decoy. How do you decide where to put it? You know, is this just experience, or
Well, it's
does it
just
sing to you, or what?
more or less common sense. We just get up here and take a look, make sure that that trail can see us, and where they came out last night, they can see us. We'll make sure they can see both areas.
So in other words, you're covering all your bets. If he comes up over here instead of over there, he's still going to see it, hopefully.
Hopefully, we should be able to see him. We should horn around him or something.
You ever think about putting a little flashing neon light together?
We thought about putting remote control in there.
Oh, get the tail to twitch?
Yeah. Okay, somewhere in here maybe now. Let's take a look at it. Let's see what we think of it. Okay, now.
Okay, anything coming up that trail where the scrape was is bound to see it here. I mean, for one thing, they're going to look out here in case there's any danger.
That's right. You should see it, and then...
Well, it sure should be visible from there.
Because they messed around there last night, and then they ran up over that hill. So it should work really well.
Well, the afternoon sun should be hitting the throat patch and stuff, too.
Boy, it should. It should really help, yeah.
Big thing now is going to be where to put your shooting tree, but probably right over there.
It's got a lot of cover. You know, it's a good start. I think that'd probably work. If we can find a cameraman tree, maybe over there in one of those trees.
We don't want the cameraman. They always
leave him
screw
home.
things up.
You know, with this here, the two things the decoy will really do for you that nothing else really does. You know, all these new tactics they've had, the scrape line hunting, mock scrapes, horn rattling, and your new funnel technique and stuff. What the decoy will do for you is it'll bring a buck into the area that you're set up for. And nothing else will really do that as well as a decoy. So once you get him into the area, the second thing it does for you is it gives you the shot. And nothing else will do that for you either. I mean, when he comes in, he is so intensely looking at this decoy, you know, it gives you time to draw, and you know that's the hardest part of bow hunting, is drawing your bow back. They get that movement.
Rather deer or something like that.
And they aren't concerned with movement, they're just really staring at this decoy. So it lets you draw your bow, and that's what the decoy will do for you. It'll let you draw your bow.
Now, would you try and shoot the deer before he hits the decoy?
That's a really good point. Most of the time, when a deer hits it, his horns, antlers, will stick in there. It's kind of like styrofoam, urethane stuff. Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes back with the deer, and it scares him. And so most of the time, he'll blow out like maybe 20, 30 yards, and then stop and look back at it. But a lot of times, he's behind cover, and he can't get a shot. They'll come in like this, and they hit him in the side right here because they're expecting the decoy to turn their head and meet head on. And so they just about always hit him right here in the side, but it sticks with them, so it scares them when they take off. So the time to hit them is when they're coming right about here, you know, a few feet from the decoy, because they're kind of slowing up then, getting ready to make their charge.
Super. So in other words, you know, I noticed in that footage that you had from that attack last year, you know, whenever I've got a buck moving, I always try and time my draw so that that leg starts forward. Yeah. The arrow hits when it's extended out. Well, like you said, if he's doing that,
he's doing it pretty slow. I think the guy can time that.
He's kind of all. Yeah.
You might not get it perfectly. Well, he might stop too. You never know for sure what they're gonna do, but they go real slow at the end, right before they charge, and that'd be the time to hit him.
That's the time to whack him.
Because you don't know what he's gonna do after he hits it.
Okay, now, what kind of keys would you look for? Well, you know, what tells you when the buck is getting ready? I mean, what should I watch for?
Okay, the deer's posture is what you're really looking for. When he is mad and he's going to attack this thing, from back there quite a ways, like maybe even 20 yards back, all of a sudden the hair will stand up on him and his ears will go back and both his ears go back. That's the time. And then when they come up, his eyes roll in the back of his head too, right before he hits him, you know. His ears are back, hair is up, and the eyes roll in the back of his head just before he hits it. So you'll see all of that. So all that'll tell you.
I get that way when I see a real good-looking girl.
When you get stuck then.
Nobody's ever shot at me yet.
Although Tom did have an elk come by, within 48 hours the pace of the rut quickened and the bucks deserted the bedding area to stay closer to the does. Tom also abandons this stand. Let's examine a second set.
That's the spot I was telling you about.
Okay.
there's a big crossing where they come across the river, and
Where that
usually,
snow is there, you mean?
yeah, you can see this where the snow is in the trail.
All right.
And see, usually what happens by this time of year, there's ice on the river.
Mhm.
And it goes out far enough that they won't use that crossing. But I was over here checking out yesterday, and there's just trail going across the river. But in the morning, they come this way with the wind at their backs, looking for does.
Okay.
And then what'll happen is they get to the end of this patch, it kind of goes together like this.
Uh-huh.
And they'll either, from what I've seen and from when I've looked at tracks, they'll either go across there, or they'll go out here and up to that big hill up there, which has got a good bedding area. But to me, this would be just, from what you've described to me so far, what to look for, this would be a perfect setup. One of the problems I see with you and me hunting, we'll never see eye to eye. I get a crick in my neck. Anyway, I just don't know for sure what they do here in the evening. I think it's kind of a mishmash. I do know they come across the river because I sat there and had, nice little basket rack, 125-inch bucks come by.
Yeah.
But morning, man, well, for one thing, you come in here 9 o'clock in the morning when you've had a snow at night, all the tracks are coming this way.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a morning stand.
Yeah, it'd be nice, yeah.
And I thought that since your stand is such a good evening stand, that, the big guy always gives the little guy the breaks, right?
Yeah, but see, I put my steps in this far apart. You can't get in there. Nice try.
Ain't fair, man. So,
It's a good trail.
heavily used. And
There's
then,
another one right here.
yeah, there was more snow and seeing it.
That's the river crossing trail there then?
Yeah, but see, there's another one coming this way.
Oh, okay.
I had a stand up in that tree 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
There were some elk coming across and some deer. And I mean, it was action. I just never got anything big enough to shoot.
Yeah.
But this trail over here going across the river, and the neat thing is, you can hear them. I got bad hearing in all those years of shooting bows and damaged.
Okay. I'll go over
Back in the days of shotguns and rifles. But it's really neat because you sit here and you hear that whoosh, whoosh,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I like
it's
that,
about
too.
brisket deep.
That's fun, yeah.
And the thing, now you tell me, if you had a decoy somewhere in there, I mean, it'd be visible from anywhere, wouldn't it?
That's what you want to get it visible, because if they're going to flow this way, you wouldn't want to tuck it back here and then brush it off. So
Well, when I
have it
was
somewhere
over
out here.
I see a place to tuck it back in, right over here. What I was thinking was putting the back end of the decoy into this brush. I don't know if it's thick enough.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Does it?
They won't come to that to get to his back end. If you put him back in there like facing this way or something.
Where would you have him looking?
Okay, the flow can come from anywhere, I suppose, right? Or is it more of it this way or more of it this way? Or
I'm pretty sure these bigger bucks will stay in the edge where it's thicker.
Mhm.
So I think they'll come from there.
Okay. What about that tree there, maybe?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Put the shooting stand right there and leave that back cover on it.
Yeah. See, if that's a pretty good tree for cover.
Yeah.
And then you have the decoy a little bit behind you. So if they're going to come this way, they're going to have to come by you a little bit to get to the decoy. Then you should get at least a broadside or a quarter away.
And if he comes in, you'll
You
have
got him there, yeah, for
perfect
sure.
shot.
This is the only thing that might, if he comes from this way and happens to hit the decoy on this side, you might not get a perfect broadside shot. But if you go on this side and set up, then the same thing could happen from this way. So
Follow along for the next few days, and you will see if the stand proves to be successful.
here's a nice little 2-point that comes in. Came in one of the trails that Paul said they'd come on. It's a little bit intimidated by the decoy. He sees it, and he kind of works his way closer. This is really where scouting pays off. We got a lot of bucks coming to this stand. The river crossing trail is there, plus a lot of other trails. He's trying to work his way closer. The doe came through here, and she urinated there, and he smelled the doe. He's giving us a nice lip curl. We definitely had a shot at this buck, but of course he was way too small. Here's a real nice 4-point. He comes in and spots a decoy right off the bat. We call this buck the Texas buck. He's a real unique buck. He has a high horn, just like Texas bucks have. He comes right in and checks the decoy out. But he's not big enough to attack the decoy. Gets a little nervous the closer he gets. As he walks off, you can notice his tail's in a subservient position. He knows he's not the dominant buck. You'll notice the antlers on the decoy are much bigger than the deer's. Could have shot this buck, but we'll save him till next year. He'll be a lot bigger next year. I'd like to explain what happened to that muley buck when he came down here. He came off that side hill up there where the snow was covered, got down in the flat, and he started down this trail going behind us here. He was heading the other way, going to the left. And he got about directly behind my tree stand, and he spotted the whitetail buck. And he stopped and froze and stared at it for a long time. Then he walked directly underneath my tree stand here, about right underneath my tree, and he just kept staring at the whitetail buck. And I guess he was figuring he wasn't going to get beat up because he kept on going. Then he walked right over there, heading toward the river, kind of looked at that decoy a couple times. We finally got the camera on him about right there. And by then he assumed that he was okay. So he just kept walking. But that's the first chance I ever had to have a mule deer come into the whitetail decoy. I didn't know exactly what would happen. It wasn't a huge muley, so he just kept walking. I guess it brings in mule deer too. Something nice to know. This was a nice 4-point across the river. He heard my rattling and stared across the river at us. If I'd have just had the decoy in a position where he could have seen it, he might have come over. But the decoy was in behind some brush. He finally got fed up with it and just left. It's another nice little 4-point. Came in and hooked a tree. That's what's nice about looking from a tree stand. You get to see so many things. It's just fun to watch him. He was too small. Just let him go. You can tell he's rutting from the position of the tail. Sometimes, no matter how careful you are, they can still wind you and take off.
Okay, now what do you do to take care of the human scent that invariably gets on the decoy and then to make it smell like a deer?
All right, well, what I try to do to get rid of the human scent is I use some scent away spray and spray it down like this. Get a little in the stand, spray both sides of it like that. But I don't get it on the nose and I don't get it on the tail because I put different kinds of scents on the nose and the tail because the deer invariably either come to the tail or the nose of it. So I want the deer scent there. And what I use for the deer scent, I just put a little the nose first.
That's that wall hanger stuff?
That's our wall hanger stuff. It's a gel, and it seems to hold better than liquid. So I put the gel on like that, just a little drop like that. That'll last all day, really. You can smell it all day. Okay, and on the tail, I put a little bit of wall hanger too, a little wall hanger gel. Doesn't take much. It stays right in that tail really good.
You know, I've been screwing around with mock scrapes for a long time. This is the first time since you guys told me to get some of that and start doing some stuff. They're hitting mock scrapes. I mean, like I pour that in, I come back the next day and there's footprints in there and it's opened up. I mean, it's...
Well, I don't know exactly what's in there. I know there's a buck scent in there, and maybe it goes to it too, but whatever it is, it works.
I know one thing, man. I took a bite of a sandwich the other day and I had some on my fingers and I about threw up.
Yeah, it'll do it to you. Okay, one other added thing I do, I don't know if it's necessary, but I always do it. I have some dough and heat, and I just squirt a little bit around, just around them, just right in the head there, just a little semicircle around it, and I just think you should get as much deer scent as you can here, because you're standing here and everything, and it's, heck, they like dough and heat smell as well as buck scent, so it's just a little bit of added scent that I like to put around.
Well, you know, the thing that I've learned about this, there's no way to tell if all of this works. But it's like having a quiver full of arrows. I mean, you got to do this, 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 and this in order to get that mix that gives you success.
You don't know exactly. Maybe the decoy alone would work, but maybe they'd smell it and run off.
I do.
Maybe the scent it works.
Yeah, I try to do everything I can because I got 2 weeks out of the whole year when these bucks are in the rut, and I want the biggest one in the country. I'm
I agree.
greedy, you know. So I just try everything. I mean, you're certainly not going to hurt. It's like, maybe you're not real sure there's a heaven, but you go to church every Sunday just in case, you know. The assurance policy.
Yep. You know, while we're talking about scents, how do you prep yourself to get into a tree?
Well, I tell you, boy, I really worry about body odor. I mean, I use scent away soap. They have a laundry soap I use on all my clothes. Then I put them in a clothes bag. You know, they got a real airtight bag, and I put pine needles or scent wafers in them. I use scent away soap when I'm washing myself, especially my hair, you know.
Well, you've got a lot of hair, you have to use a lot of soap.
Right. I'll grow a beard and catch up to you. I've seen the bald spot.
That's why I wear a cap.
You probably, if I'm going to answer your question, we'll just leave the short jokes and the bald jokes out.
You got it.
I use, I'm really convinced on these cover scent wafers. And what I try to do is use a scent that's really good for the area and the time of year. So, for example, here, I'll be using a pine scent wafer, and I'll use fresh earth.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, there's a lot of scrapes around. I don't know what they smell like. That fresh earth smell is heavy enough.
That's a good idea. I never thought of that.
And, you know, I've had guys tell me, usually guys that are in the business of selling or manufacturing scent, tell me, oh, try this, it's guaranteed to work. I mean, if something walks downwind of you, and I'm interested to hear your opinion, you're caught.
Pretty tough to get away from it, isn't it?
You can't get rid of all human odor. Like you got nostril smell, breath smell. But the point to me is I use my wind feather, I try and get the predominant wind, but then I figure, okay, what if I get that little puff on the back of the head? You know, just that little swirl of wind. If I'm pretty well covered,
just might camouflage enough to get by with it, or get you the shot, right?
Yeah, it's just more insurance, you know.
Right.
What do you do about body scent? Pretty much the same
Pretty
thing?
much the same thing. Just try and stay real clean, wash your clothes and all the things you're supposed to wash them in, keep them in separate bags, and then put scent on when you walk in and scent on around the stand. Pretty much the same thing, yeah.
Paul checked one of his favorite natural funnels and found 3 active scrapes, one of which was being heavily used. He set up a stand, picked a decoy location, and began to treat the scrapes with wall hanger.
This is a really old buck. I call him the old timer. I've seen him several times. He came in, saw the decoy, but got downwind of us, just wouldn't stick around. I tried to rattle him back. Rattled up another buck instead. Oh man, here he comes.
The bow hunter should wait 30 minutes or longer, depending on his hit, before recovering his animal. Though he found it difficult, Paul waited an hour before tracking and claiming his buck.
That's lung blood for sure. You can tell. It's a real good argument for that two-bladed Zwicky head. I don't think I've ever been so excited in my whole life. He should be somewhere right in here. He's been going all zigzaggy back and forth through here. Hard hit. Whitetails during the rut again without a decoy. Man, this is just unbelievable. This is the fourth buck to come right into the decoy, pay no attention to you. It's just unbelievable. Boy, he's a nice heavy mover. I love it.
Let's look at how scrapes are used to complement decoy hunting.
It's been hit lightly. Each day I try to get in here, usually like today when I'm leaving the blind, to freshen it up with wall hanger and just a tad bit of this rut roller. It's tough as grim, but it sure does excite the deer. Let's check 2 or 3 more I made over here. This one's been hit too. Put a stick in here and it's gone. Look at the tracks. Tom and I came in here and did these yesterday about noon. The scrape over by the decoy has just been torn to pieces. So far, every single one of them has been hit. Let's check a couple more. There's a mock scrape that I built right there. It's only got 1 track in it. But this is the beginnings of a buck-made scrape. This was not here 24 hours ago. Tom and Harry Burnett's got a theory, and I think it's really fascinating. In 20 years of making mock scrapes and in trying various scents in them, I've had 2 hits. Right now I've got approximately 20 mock scrapes that we have built, and every single one of them has been hammered. Apparently this wall hanger stuff, I don't know what it is, but it's the real McCoy. I mean, this is 24 hours and they're hitting it. What Tom and Harry think is this. You get a big old buck and he's working these scrapes. And he starts finding this wall hanger stuff in there, this scent. It's an aggressor scent apparently. And he just starts to get real nasty mad. And he's coming in, you know, just at daylight, just at dark, maybe even nocturnal. And Harry and Tom are pretty sure that this just gets him angry and he starts coming in during the day. And one of these times he walks in and there's the decoy and he thinks, well, that boy is going to get his head crushed. And this morning, the buck's coming in on the decoy. It was just amazing. I mean, they're just pouring it on it. What I'm going to do is enlarge these 2 scrapes and really load them up. And we'll have a line right smack dab in the decoy. You want to be real careful not to get your scent on the grass and not to get your feet in there. Now here's a real good tip that Tom taught me. Take a leaf or a pine cone or stick and put it in there, and if it's gone, you know that buck hit the scrape. I never believed in this darn stuff before, but I'll tell you, I'll never hunt during the rut again without it.
When I make a mock scrape, I always choose an area that has overhanging branches. I try and break the branches off with the stick that I use to make the scrape, because every scrape you see has the branches broken off over it. Then I put a buck scent on those little branches, and I've seen them come up and smell that, start digging in those scrapes.
Over the last 2 years, Tom has filmed some remarkable sequences with his home video that demonstrate many points of interest.
This is a nice little buck that walked right underneath my tree stand. Saw the decoy. Just keep checking it out. He's not aggressive, he's just curious, because he knows he's not as big. He gave me a lot of shots. Just can't figure out who this new kid on the block is. But the decoy is exactly 20 yards from my stand, so this buck is approximately 5 to 10 yards most of the time from me. You can see how it presents an excellent shot. You can hear the footsteps of a bigger buck coming from behind the cameraman right now. He's already got his ears back, his hair on end. He's mad. That's the same little 2-point buck. He came over to check out that 2-point buck. But he sees the decoy too, so he's not sure what to do. So he decided to go after the little 2-point buck first. So he leaves the country. But he's still looking at the decoy even though he's going to leave. Now watch carefully behind that tree, between the decoy and the tree. The buck will come out with his ears back. Right here. Okay, now that was my fault because I didn't use my rubber gloves that time. And there was some human sand on the tail. So it scared him, but he didn't blow all the way out of the country. He knows something's wrong, but that decoy's still there. So he just kind of circles the decoy. He's suspicious. But he just keeps looking at the decoy. And there it is, boys. There's your shot. That's what the decoy will get for you. An excellent standing shot. Here's another buck that came in. He's trying to look dominant. Look at the hair go up on end. Makes a black streak down his back. They like to look bigger, and also he's angry. When he walks away, you'll notice that the hair goes down. But when he looks at the decoy, it's up. Right now it's down, and when he turns, it'll go back up. See it go up? He's trying to act dominant, but he knows he's not as big as that one. So he just keeps circling it. But there again is a real nice shot for a bow and arrow hunter. This is a real nice 5-point buck. He stared at that decoy for 15 minutes. I've got 15 minutes of video of that particular buck just standing right there. He just wouldn't move. So I just kept taking the video. When he finally decided to move, I thought, oh boy, here we go. He's gonna come and just crash into that decoy. Because he's big enough. He's pretty equal to the decoy. But as usual in the outdoors, there's always something you don't know about. Well, this particular case, there was a nice 4-point right over by the decoy, and I didn't even see it. This buck went right over to the live 4-point instead of the decoy. They got into a good fight. It's behind some trees, but you can see him skirmishing a little bit back there. Right about now. Okay, here we have a nice little 2-point buck. He's making a scrape right now. You can see him digging the dirt. Okay, now he steps forward, just like he's on cue or something, right behind the decoy in perfect view. And he balances on his front legs. And he's rubbing his tarsal glands. And as he's doing that, he's urinating over the tarsal glands. Then it goes down into the dirt. And that's how they leave their scent. Now he's definitely trying to impress that decoy. He's doing it in full view of that decoy. It's pretty unusual footage. I've never seen him do it this long in the woods. I've seen him rub it just a little bit, but not like that. It's pretty neat stuff. Sometimes a decoy will have almost a calming effect on deer, as you can see in this video. That deer is smelling my tracks, and they usually get skitterish. But he's just curious, and he just keeps looking at the decoy. Seems to calm him down. As you can see, the decoy is 18 yards away, so the deer is approximately 5 to 15 yards at all times. They have many shots. This is the rarest and most dramatic footage I've ever taken or seen in the outdoors. Just take a look at this. I'm not sure who got the worst of this deal. The deer or the decoy. The decoy's got holes in it, knocked an antler off. So I have to go pick up the decoy and try and find the antler. This was a bad day to lose a toss of the coin. My buddy Dan Burris won the flip, so he got to shoot the deer. I was doing the video up until this point. We're going to do a decoy video next year. It'll be a real blockbuster. We're going to have a lot of attacks like that and a lot of big bucks in it. So be sure to be waiting for that one. The reason I'm setting the decoy up again is because there was a huge buck in the area. We were hoping he'd come in. But because of all the activity, he just didn't come.
Tom and Paul examine why a buck will attack a decoy and the so-called dominance theory.
You know, in all the years I've been whitetail hunting, probably, 35 years, I guess, I've seen one real knockdown, drag-out fight in the woods. I mean, I saw 2 5-points go at it, just hammered each other, breaking trees.
Awesome.
Yeah. The one that won got him down on the ground and gored him, and blood squirted out, hair everywhere. But, you know, the months and months and months I've been in the woods at this time, I've only seen the one fight. Why is it that they attack this decoy so much?
That's a good question. I've got a theory. I don't know if it's right, but this is my theory. Usually deer have to be the same body size, same antler size to fight, predominantly, right? Because the dominant one will run the smaller one off before he fights. Well, anyway, the body size is usually what chases the smaller buck off. You know, the dominant buck comes in a dominant position, then he might even put his ears back or whatever. Well, the smaller buck, he blows out of there because he knows he's in trouble. Okay, so a buck comes into this one, and if it's a bigger buck, this one should be running, right? So, you know, if a bigger buck would come in, this tail should be down like this between his legs.
Subservient.
You're right, and he should be getting out of the country. Well, when a big buck comes into this one and it stays right there, like that, I mean, the dominant is straight up, but you don't see him do that very often. So I leave it like this, and he doesn't move, and his tail stays there. The big buck figures, well, this is easy pickings, you know, what's this little guy doing here? And he just blasts him. At least that's my theory. And if they're equal in size, it's natural anyway because they're going to fight anyway.
So the very, very first time you ever had an attack, was that pretty wild?
It's just awesome. I tell you, it just makes your whole heart, you know, the very first time you couldn't believe it.
A sportsman really gets the fever when hunting with decoys. Watch and enjoy some of the types of encounters you can anticipate.
Hey, wait a minute. Is this another case of the big guy picking on the little guy? Give me a break.
Tom, holding out for an exceptional buck, finished his Montana hunt and headed for Alberta, while Paul continued to hunt on his own.
Okay, Harry Burnett's one that makes me.
Tom hunted the farmland just south of Calgary, and the first day of the hunt was bluebird weather. Tom meets his guide, Gordon Kitchen.
Well, Gordon, why don't you tell me about the hunting around here? When I talked to you on the phone, you said there was a lot of big bucks running around this country, so what's happening?
Well, things have been going really well. We've seen quite a lot of activity. The deer have been running between the brush piles here on us a bit, and last week we had a gentleman from Pennsylvania by the name of Larry Smith kill a real good buck. He gross scored about 169.5, and he's going to net out at 164.
That's a log, isn't it?
And I just happen to have him right
just
here.
have him picked. All right.
You got to show him. Here's the deer.
All
Here's the little
right.
beauty.
Oh man, that is something else. Boy, Gordon, that is a dandy. With that back tine there,
Well,
maybe,
that-
you know.
That back tine on the one side, he's got a sticker point over here, but
Mhm.
this side, he's 12 inches long.
It looks like about 12. That is
Yeah.
unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, he's just one heck of a deer, and he's been running with another buck that they kind of look like brothers. The other one his main beam comes up a little bit, and we've seen him here for just about every day for
Is that
a week.
right?
Yeah.
Kind of a twin to that one for scoring?
I
more or
think
less?
he's going to be awful close to this buck, or maybe just a touch bigger.
That same afternoon, a huge buck was seen at 500 yards. This trophy animal lived his entire life next to the freeways and houses. A doe decoy was added as extra enticement because the deer were cautious in the open terrain. The setup worked, bringing in a nice 4-point that Tom passed up because it was still early in the hunt. That night, 12 inches of snow fell. The temperature at dawn was minus 15 degrees with high winds blowing. That made the next few days impossible hunting, forcing Tom to return to Montana.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Well, pretty good. How are you?
Good. How'd your hunt go up there?
A lot of snow like this.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it started the day the season closed, just about the last couple hours of daylight. Rain, snow started coming down. Look at the decoys.
Oh, what'd you do with the decoys?
I haven't got them indoors yet. We really got a bushel of snow. Come on in. I'm just getting some arrows put together and getting ready to go on a javelina hunting trip down in Texas. Here, let me grab a chair for you, Tom, and let's sit down. I want to hear some stories.
All right.
Some good ones. They better be good ones.
Stories, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I want to find out how you did up there. I wish I could have gone along, but, well, I won't tell you what happened here. You got to hit me
All right,
first.
I'll hit you first. Well, we definitely saw some pretty good bucks. I guess I could just start in the sequence they were. The first one that came in was a pretty nice 4-point, I suppose, 125 somewhere in there. We passed him up. We had a good shot at him. Probably could have got him. And he came right pretty close to the decoy and was really checking it out. Just kind of walked around the decoy and was kind of looking at it, you know.
Was he like maybe the same size, so he didn't just come right in and attack
He
it?
was smaller than the decoy. I think I had the big, I can't remember, I think I had the big antlers on the decoy then. And so he was a little skittish, you know, went around the side. And then we saw another real nice buck that was clear across the field. And he was on the other side of the fence. And we were wondering if he's if this decoy would get him to jump the fence. He was a long ways away, like 100, 150 yards away. He kept looking at the decoy. We could see him looking at it.
Well, you could see it from...
Yeah, because this was a wide open field. It's different country there. It's brushy and wide open field. And he saw the decoy and he kept messing around. And pretty soon he jumped the fence. I went, all right, here we go. You know?
The old adrenaline, you know, the shirt doing one of these numbers.
Yeah, he had a bunch of does there too and stuff. But he eventually worked his way pretty close to the decoy. Not close enough for a shot, but fairly close. We got a real good look at him. And then there was a buck that, well, I guess before that, the big buck, there was a bunch of does that came right in real close to the decoy. And, you know, we could have had a lot of shots at them, but they're just real nice. They came right in the decoy real good. But the big buck, we call the high horn buck, was the one I was really interested in. It must have been, I'd had to make boom. It was a 175, I'm sure. You'll see it.
Oh, man.
Oh boy, he is a big high rack thing, you know, heavy and high, tall. And he never saw the decoy. We weren't sure if he ever saw the decoy. I don't think he did. And he was chasing the doe most of the time when he was in a video.
Were they hot in the rut then when you were up there?
Yeah, they were, yeah. And if we could have got some kind of circumstance where he could have come by that decoy somewhere or another, he would have just attacked it, I know it. We just couldn't quite get that done. It's so wide open, it's hard to funnel them and pattern them there. Like,
Yeah, no natural funnels?
It was tough, yeah. It really was.
Well, I tell you, that makes all the difference. If you know a deer has to go through something to get somewhere,
Yeah.
I mean, there's the place to go. Yeah, you bet.
Okay, I told you my story. Now it's your turn to tell me.
You really want to hear?
Yeah, I do. Let's go. Must be a good one, huh?
Yeah.
All right, I want to hear it.
First of all, let me tell you, I will never bother using a deer tag again until the rut, and I will never hunt in the rut again without a decoy.
All right.
I mean, we're talking about a love story, man. I haven't had this much excitement since I was 12 and shot my first deer. I mean,
It
it's,
was fun with a decoy, isn't it?
I nearly fell off the tree stand one time. I was shaking so badly. Well, let me tell you what happened, because it's a real corker.
All right.
I went up to the bow zone, that big scrape up there at Hills, and it had been snowing and raining, and there was just like 1 or 2 hours of daylight left, and I set up the decoy. I could smell the scrape when I went in. I put on one of those fresh earth wafers, treated the scrape. This thing is about 6 feet across now. I mean, it's just unreal. And went up in a tree. Nobody went to film me because it had been raining when I left, so I had a video camera with me, and I took one of those screw-in camera mounts. And I got up in the tree and put my bow on a limb, didn't have an arrow on the string or anything, and I was screwing the video camera mount in and using my pocket knife to clean some bark out from under it, and I just had this kind of, the feeling in the back of your neck, and I looked around, and here came this buck in from behind the decoy, downwind. The only thing I can figure is he smelled the wall hanger and my earth wafer, and I just had time to get my bow, throw an arrow on a string, and whack him. He was attacking the decoy. Unbelievable. Then he took off and ran about 30 yards, stopped, looked back at the decoy. All right. I mean, he was going to attack it again. He laid his ears back, and he kind of showed his teeth and his hair all puffed up. He took 4 steps and fell over deader than a hammer. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I've never had anything like this happen in my life. The only thing I had time to do then was just get the camera out and take a piece of footage of the deer and the decoy. I mean, Tom, this is unbelievable. I'll never forget this story as long as I live. What was really crazy, Tom, is he came in from behind and on the offside, and he poked the decoy a couple of times in the neck. Fortunately, I had a log on the base because of the wind, but then he started to swing around to take it head on, and that's when I reached back and grabbed my bow. I kept saying to myself, nobody's going to believe this. Nobody's going to believe it. But anyway, he backed up about 3 steps and started that forward lunge to hit him, and that's when the arrow took him through both lungs. And the only thing I can figure is, he must have thought that buck jabbed him, because once he got out there where he fell, he started in on another attack. I mean, you wouldn't have believed it. I'm still shaking my head over this, but I'm in love with that decoy.
How'd that wall hanger taste, Paul? Better than skunk, right?
You'd probably, one thing that'll help you is to know some tips that we found that we felt were important enough to share with you on hunting over decoys. And since Tom is the guy that's invented this process, we'll let him crank out the first couple of goodies.
Well, you know as many as I do now. I would think the very most important tip I would say would be the decoy being in a position that the buck can see, because how many times have we had a buck go by that didn't see the decoy, only 30, 40 yards away, just a brush screen in it or whatever. And the best way to do that is use your funnel technique that you explained to me and explained in your book real well, because if you can get them in a funnel situation, they're already coming through there and they're going to see that decoy, and that's so important. If they don't see it, it doesn't do any good to have the decoy, so you have to have it where they can see it.
I think you're right.
What tip would you think would be the most
Well, I think it's really important to have your area scouted, very carefully scouted, and you can scout it year round. I think that's important, but you need to know where rut activity occurs every year. And generally, it occurs in the same place year after year, unless there's been subdivision or changes in agricultural use. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, sure. It ties in the same thing I'm talking about, really. You just have to have it where they can see it,
Yeah, I think another good tip, and I really got a kick out of you with your big rack on your decoy.
Yeah.
You know, you said you didn't want to have to climb down out of your
I
tree.
climbed down all those trees a lot. I tell you, I get tired of that.
Well, I put small racks on mine because I wanted a tax.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was just waiting to have to climb down out of my tree and go through the aggravation of putting my decoy back up.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I think at least for the next couple of years, because it's so new and exciting, I'll probably use small racks.
One other important tip is when to shoot. And you did take my tip on that, and you did shoot your deer before they got to the decoy. That's why you didn't see the attack. But usually the attacks I've had, when they hit it, they take off 20, 30, 40 yards and maybe get behind some brush before they look back. Now, as you'll see in the video, one of them wasn't that way. He just hit it and came back just perfect for a nice shot. But that's more the exception than the rule. So you want to shoot them before they get to that decoy, because they don't know where you are, what you're doing. They're just honed in on a decoy.
I don't think it really makes much difference what kind of a bow you use, but I feel pretty strongly, as I think you do, about arrow weight and a real good penetrating broadhead.
No, definitely. I shoot an Oregon bow. Any compound bow now is good. Any recurve, long bow, just so you're comfortable with the bow and you shoot it well and shoot it a lot. The broadhead and the penetration is more important than the bow by far. You know.
Well, I know I've been shooting this fall. I've been shooting a sinew-backed Indian bow that I built myself, snakeskin backed, and then I've been. Yeah, I really like this little thing. Check the weight difference between that and yours. One thing too, I think we always try really hard to impress. Don't ever take a marginal shot. There is not a trophy in the world good enough to risk wounding an animal. We love our quarry. We have a tremendous amount of respect for them. And I think Tom would agree that
Oh yeah, for sure.
it's just so important to do it right. Because a bow hunter is handicapped by having to get close anyway. And we just need to make sure that we do it right all the way.
Well, I guess as a final parting shot, let's just say everybody get your decoy and get out in the woods and get after it, because it's a lot of fun.
Oh, it sure is. Go for it. Let me tell you, it's worth it.
Sponsored by Hunter Specialties. For sportsmen, by sportsmen.